Hey folks, this is Jex Thomas, writer and designer of the game Bump in the Dark, a tabletop role-playing game about community, chosen family, occult investigation, and showdowns with the gnarliest monsters you can imagine in an alternate version of the mid-1990s. Today, I would like to run you through the character creation process. This is my second attempt at this video because the first one I accidentally recorded through my webcam's microphone and it sounded like boiled garbage. Now, in Bump in the Dark, character creation is meant to be part of a communal process with the other players as part of your session 0 or the start of the first session. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but for now, let's start by getting oriented to the character sheet. Your character is a hunter, someone who has chosen the life of hunting monsters. Maybe you have an idea why, or maybe you'll leave some blanks to fill in during play. Either way, you'll need a character sheet like the one you see here. The first thing you're going to see on the character sheet in the upper left-hand corner is the playbook name. Your playbook is kind of like your character class in other RPGs, but a little bit broader. You can think of it as the archetype your character fits within, or their general role in the story, with a lot of room to customize your character's background and what approach they take as a monster hunter. There are 7 different playbooks total, and each sheet lists the playbook's name and a brief tagline describing the general role of your hunter in the Pact, which is the name in the game for the team of hunters. We will be working with the Shield, a fierce protector and fighter. Continuing down the left side of the sheet, there's a spot for your hunter's name and pronouns, their look, their background, their solace, that's how they sort of de-stress after a hunt, their beliefs about the other hunters and the world, what drives them, their connections to the world of Last Pine, and finally a section for notes. The next column lists the playbook's special abilities. Below that is your luck track, which luck is a currency you can spend to get more dice or resist consequences that you don't like. Below that is your doom track. You take a level of doom whenever you run out of luck. And once you've taken all 4 levels of doom, your life as a monster hunter is over. Finally, there's a track for your hope, which is basically your XP or experience points that you earn during the game when you go for broke, which is kind of like taking on more risk to get a bigger payoff. As well as after the hunt, you go through and assign yourself hope if you've hit any of the listed narrative triggers. You can see that the Shield has a trigger about addressing a challenge with force of will or brawn, and then shares the other 3 triggers with the other hunter playbooks. Expressing your beliefs or having them tested or changed, embodying your drive and background, and portraying your relationship to the Pact and the people of Iron Country. Thinking about these triggers can help shape your play and reward you for playing your character in a way that's consistent with their background, beliefs, drive, and so on. The next column contains all of your action ratings. You use these to roll dice. They're broken down into 3 attributes, body, heart, and mind, which you use to resist consequences. And each attribute also has a condition associated with it that can affect your action rolls. As you can see, you start with a rating of 2 in one of your actions and 1 in another. During the character creation process, we're actually going to be filling in 4 more of these action dots. Below these, there's a reminder of how you can get bonus dice, the showdown questions, and a list of beats that you can buy during downtime. We'll talk more about those maybe in a future video about actually playing the game. The rightmost column lists your available gear slots. You start with 4, and all the gear that's available for your playbook. Beneath this is where you mark off armor, which is a special way of resisting certain consequences, or maybe it can give you narrative permission to do things that you otherwise couldn't do. Next are the final 2 conditions and a reminder about your teamwork actions. Now that you're oriented to the sheet, let's go through the step-by-step guide for creating your hunter. If you have the book, this is on page 23. The first thing that you do is choose your playbook. We've done that already. Next, you're going to choose and detail a background. Your background is what you did before becoming a hunter. Maybe you still do it either as cover or because something ties you to it, or maybe it's something best left in the past. Backgrounds in Bump in the Dark are made up of 3 elements: a field, a specialty, and an origin. Field and specialty are broad by design. They are prompts to get your imagination going. Your character's origin, on the other hand, is more specific, but very simple. Is your hunter a local from Last Pine or Iron Country, or an outsider from somewhere else? These elements are listed on pages 39 and 40 of the book, with some examples of what types of backgrounds you might get from pairing one of these fields with one of the specialties. For our shield, I'm going to select trades as a field and maybe technical as the specialty. Let's also say that they're local. I think our hunter maybe worked in the mines before being laid off and taking a job as a bouncer at a local bar, probably one of the rough ones on the wrong side of the tracks. As you can see, I'm just kind of riffing on the options we picked to fill out my background more. If you like coming up with a whole backstory, that's cool. But my preferred way of playing is to come up with just kind of a rough sketch during character creation and discover more about my character and their background through play. Okay, now we're going to bounce over to the actions and mark 4 action dots. Now the shield starts with 2 marked under Rec and 1 in Compel. There's no particular rule for how to select the others, but I like to think about my character's background, and that helps me choose. There are also templates in the book if you need that extra help if you're having trouble. It's also important to note that unless an ability specifically tells you otherwise, you cannot start the game with more than 2 dots in any given action. So right now we couldn't add like another one to Rec, for instance. And since you started with 3 already marked, that means you should have 7 total marked after you've filled in your other 4. For our miner turned bouncer, I think we'll put 2 in Scramble. In the mines, you sometimes have to act very quickly. Let's also put 1 in Rig. Our shield is pretty handy. For our final action dot, let's choose Sway. Maybe our shield has learned that it's useful to convince unruly bar patrons to leave on their own accord before going into Intimidation or Brawn. Next, we're going to go to the middle column and choose an ability to start with. The first one listed is always a good option. It's put first as a reason. It's kind of the default. I think that Relentless could make a lot of sense for our shield, but let's say we're a little bit more interested in the protector part than the fighter part. So let's take Protective, which lets us clear 1 luck whenever we protect another hunter from harm and gives us a benefit if we don't resist the consequences. Optionally, if we want, we can mark Doom and take what's called a Monstrous Ability. This is a powerful option, but it's also dangerous because it means you have fewer Doom boxes to fill during your campaign. But if you have a character in mind who's monstrous in nature, like a Hellboy type for instance, it's a good option. If that's the route you want to go, I would recommend also making your background, solace, beliefs, and drive reflect your monstrous nature as well. For our shield, we're not going to worry about this. Now we get to choose or create 2 connections. There are example connections on pages 41 and 42, and we can either pick from these or just make up our own. I am definitely going to go with Mercy Davis, a bartender. We will say that she's my boss at the Gasping Canary. Now, one of these connections ties us to Last Pine, and the other one is pushing us out. I think it would be really interesting if Mercy is actually encouraging our shield to get the hell out of Last Pine for some reason. Maybe go finish college or something, I don't know. So we'll put Mercy's name in next to the downward pointing arrow that represents that she's pushing us out of Last Pine. For our other connection, let's go with Georgie Hale, a retired boxer. Let's say maybe Georgie's our dad and he's been sick, which keeps us stuck here. Maybe he's also encouraging us to leave Last Pine, but we know we could never actually do that as long as he's sick. I guess, we can play to find out more about that. So as you can see, I wrote in Georgie's name next to the upward pointing arrow. Then we pick a solace. As I mentioned before, your solace is kind of like how you manage the stress and burden of being a monster hunter. The solace options are on page 44 in the book and are camaraderie, faith, love, obligation, occult, solitude, and vice. Each solace option tells you a little bit about it and has some evocative questions to help you think through what it means for your character. I think obligation could make sense here given the situation with Georgie, but I think I actually want to go with camaraderie. You find solace in the company of friends and allies. Maybe our shield regularly meets up with old pals from the mine, some of whom have also been laid off, and maybe some others who are still hanging on to their jobs by a thread. Cool. So for our beliefs and drive, we'll talk about what these look like, but I actually recommend waiting to complete this step after all the other hunters are introduced. So this is why I really love doing this process collaboratively, because one of your beliefs is actually supposed to be about the pact or one of the other hunters. The second one is about the world or the supernatural, and learning about the other hunters is going to help fill in your view of the world. Now, your drive is what you're trying to accomplish or what keeps you going. Each playbook has a prompt for their drive. The shields is what keeps you moving forward. Write a drive related to a past tragedy or a future hope. I have some ideas for that. Like maybe we lost our mom or a sibling when we were young. We suspect it's related to the strange happenings in Last Pine. Maybe that's how we got wrapped up in this whole monster hunting business to begin with. But like I said, I would fill these out after meeting the other characters. Again, this is why it's great to do character creation all together so that you can work off of each other. What one person says might give another person an idea, and so on. Whenever you fill it out, though, your beliefs and drives should always be actionable in some way. For example, Ophelia doesn't know what she's talking about is an okay belief, but something like Ophelia is lost and only I can help her find her way, that's better. There is a random table of beliefs in the book on pages 149 and 150 if you need some additional inspiration. Just so we can have something here, since we're not actually coming back after meeting the other hunters, let's say our first belief is about another hunter named Ahmed, maybe that's the Unshaped, who we see as naive. We'll make that second belief about Mom, and the drive will focus on our need to protect. All right, we are almost there. The last step is for us to record a name, pronouns, and look. There is a list of character options on pages 43 and 44, including setting appropriate first and last names and role tables for clothing and looks. There are also even more tables in the back of the book, but you don't have to use these. You're more than welcome to just make up your own name and look. I happen to like rolling random characters, so I rolled some dice earlier and got the name Nessa Lopez. We'll say Nessa uses she, her pronouns. For a look, we'll say she's solid with fierce eyes and a tawny complexion. She has long, dark hair and dresses in flannels and ripped jeans. When it's chilly out, maybe she wears her coat from the mine, which has a patch with her name sewn on it. Maybe she's defaced the name of the mining concern in some way, like painted over it. I'm not sure. I'm happy to wait for it to come up at the table and kind of fill in the details there. So that's character creation. All that's left to do is go around and introduce your hunters, after which you would finish those beliefs and drive. Hopefully this all made sense for you, got you excited to play the game. Hopefully the fireworks going off in the background weren't too distracting. And feel free to ask questions in the comments. So thank you so much for listening. Don't forget that you can back the revised edition of Bump in the Dark on BackerKit from now until July 7th. Head on over to bumpinthedarkrpg.com or click the link in the description for more information. Bye, everybody.